Good evening, everyone, and welcome to NJCU's EdTech Doctoral Winter Webinar Series. My name is Melissa Wells. I am the doctoral student in the Cohort 10 group of NJCU's EdTech Leadership Program. And I'm also the graduate assistant for the department this year as well. So you're going to see my face in the beginning of these webinars as your host. So this evening, we are thrilled to have you all here today, and we're excited to share some valuable information with you from our doctoral students and also our fellow graduated doctorates that graduated from our NJCU EdTech Leadership Program. So this series is designed to provide you with the latest insights, strategies, and best practices in technology. So whether you're new to this field or you've been working in it for some time, we believe that you're going to find something of value here. So throughout this series, we're going to be covering a wide range of topics, and we will be featuring experts from technology educational fields who are going to share their knowledge and their experience with you. So we're also going to be providing you with the opportunity to ask questions and interact with our speakers towards the end of their sessions. So please feel free to participate in the Q&A sessions. If you look below, you're going to see a chat box, and you're also going to see a Q&A box as well. So during the session, you can also, you can put your comments in there and any questions that you have. Also, there's a raise hand button. So towards the end, if you do want to speak instead of just punching in your questions and everything, just press the raise hand button, and one of us will gladly unmute you. So this evening, we are presenting Convergent Teaching, presented by Duli Pllana and Patricia Peterson Bland. Now, before I introduce you to Duli and Patricia, again, if you have any questions during the presentation, just type them in the question box in your Zoom control panel. Duli and Patricia, they will have time for questions at the end. So I'd like to introduce Dr. Samantha Kozar real quick to speak about the programs in our EdTech department.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for taking your time this evening to spend some time to get some professional learning opportunity and that continuing education under your belt. Thank you so much for being here. I just wanted to speak briefly on our doctorate in educational technology leadership. We have Duli and Patricia as members of our current cohort and our wonderful and illustrious host, Melissa Wells, as a part of our doctoral program. Our EDD in educational technology leadership is an award-winning program, and we have been in the field of educational technology for over 20 years. If you are interested in learning more about our doctorate in educational technology leadership, we encourage you to reach out to Dr. Laura Ziegler, our program chair, and our department chairperson at lziegler@njcu.edu, and Melissa will put her credentials and information in the chat for you later on, so you can have that if you're interested in learning more about our doctorate program. We also have a brand new STEM certificate program, which is a wonderful precursor that would serve for the technology endorsement here in New Jersey. And that is a graduate level certificate that is a part of our Master of Arts in Educational Technology, as well as a standalone certificate program. If you are interested in learning more about the exciting new opportunity of our STEM certificate program, I encourage you to reach out to me. I am the program coordinator of the STEM certificate program at skozar@njcu.edu, and Melissa will again provide that to you if you have any questions. Thank you so very much for being here this evening, and we look forward to a wonderful session. Thank you so much, Duli and Patricia, and take it away, Melissa.
Thank you, Dr. Kozar. Okay, so again, like what Samantha said, towards the end, I'm going to upload those links. We're going to have the bios of the hosts here today, the links for the information about the programs, and also I'm going to put into the chat box a link to our YouTube channel, because this presentation is being recorded today. So if you missed anything, you'll see this recording up on our YouTube channel and other webinars and videos that we have as well. Okay, so without further ado, we are going to turn over the time over to Duli and Patricia.
Hello, I am Duli Pllana. Hello, I'm Patricia Peterson Bland.
Tonight we have to present the presentation about convergent teaching. So just let me share the screen. So we are going tonight to talk about the convergent teaching, and the only question what we are trying to answer is, what do I call convergent teaching? Some definitions might be defined differently, depend from which position we are defining. For example, if we are defining the convergence, since I'm talking here about the convergent teaching, and if we are defining the convergence, if we are defining from mathematics, is it different how we are defining from economics? For example, if we are defining the convergence in psychology, it's going to be completely different definition. Depending from which field you are defining the convergence is going to take a different form or different description, the definition. Even if you are defining from the same field, for example, if we are defining mathematics, what is mathematics? If you look in definition, you can find the different definitions. One of the definition can be mathematics is a science of numbers. If you look in the other definition, can be mathematics studies patterns. And there are lots of definitions if you are surfing the internet. If this definition was trying to define, and John Courant, and he standing in one position and he was trying to define what is mathematics. He found some definition, a specific one, but then he changed. I want to stylize the fact a little bit to make it more interesting. Then he went in different position and he looked at the mathematics and he came up with a different definition. And he said, what's going on? He was trying in the third position to change, and he was trying to change an angle. And he saw mathematics as something different else. He said, the scope is too big. So I'm not going to define mathematics with other words, but mathematics is mathematics because we cannot define with a few words. So he gave up. If the next slide is going to talk, Patricia.
Yes. There are different types of teaching methods that can be characterized into four broad types. One is teacher-centered methods. Here, the teacher casts himself or herself in the role of being a master of the subject matter. The next one is student-centered methods. In the student-centered methods, the teacher or instructor is both a teacher and the student at the same time. Contented focused methods. In this category of methods, both the teacher and the students have to fit into the content that is taught. The fourth one is interactive participated methods. This fourth category borrows a bit from the three other methods without necessarily laying emphasis unduly on either the teacher, content, or the student.
Okay, next slide. Since I was talking about the definition of the convergence, just to bring us some ideas here. If you look, for example, on the left side, it's a definition from the education perspective, from NSF. If you look in the right side, is a convergence defined from the logic. And even without reading, even without getting in details, you can see a difference. But if you are looking, for example, in the middle one, this geometrical interpretation of the convergence, we see convergence here geometrically. And here they use the high technology. Probably they use the GeoGebra Pro GeoGebra, not the students, the one that is a more advanced app. And if you're looking, for example, the pathway of the dots, all the dots, they're going in the linear way, but we get some illusion, optical illusion, that the movement of the dots is in circular. But what's going on here? All of this pathway, they have a different points. The only point that connects all these pathways is the midpoint. So the midpoint is the convergence. Patricia?
Yes, Duli, thank you. In their new book, Convergent Teaching, Tools to Spark Deeper Learning in College, Doctors Anna Newman and Aaron M. Paulus, professors at Teachers College, Columbia University, examine an idea they call convergent teaching, which looks holistically at the process of learning. Under this approach, All teaching must pay attention to several things all at once, including students' prior knowledge, the subject matter, and the social and emotional contents.
Thank you. So if you paid attention in the last sentences, what Patricia says, the convergent teaching, according to the professors from the Columbia University, they defined in the 3 facts or factors is in prior knowledge, students' prior knowledge, content knowledge, and social emotional learning. And how did they get to this idea? They are not hiding. They are saying they did a good research, rich research in the K to 12, because those elements, those teachers who teach from K to 12, they already apply in their teaching. So, but they wanted this kind of the teaching to bring up to the higher education. And they came up with a new terminology, what they call convergent teaching. How I define convergent teaching? Before I go any further, I want to talk a little bit about simplicity. I like simple explanation, not because I like, but I want to explain things simple. Even if Einstein used to say, make everything as simple as possible, but not simpler. What he meant? He meant to explain easy people to understand what you're saying, but not something simpler, not meaningless. This is what he was thinking. And according to how I see this, the simple explanation is a powerful tool that can answer any complex question. If you cannot explain someone a problem in the simple way, what does it mean? It means you didn't understand that problem completely. And that's why I'm trying this definition to define in a simple way. The definition is convergent teaching is a product of convergent thinking. That's how I define. Let me go to the next slide. And here I have a picture that describes or interprets geometrically the convergent thinking and convergent questions. If you look in here, you don't see a difference. For example, it starts with the information, converges on a solution. If you look at the other one, starts with information, converges on a solution. So if you look here, the content is the same. But if you look at, for example, those geometrical, here we have circles. In the other one, we have squares. If you look, this is a pentagon, this is a circle. Maybe we can agree those are the same, but in something we can agree. Those are similar. At least those are similar. Now, let me talk a little bit about the convergent thinking. I do not have here the definition because I'm talking a lot about definition, so I'm not going to talk here about definition, but I'm trying to explain with one simple example. What means the convergent thinking? For example, if we are reading a piece of writing, piece of reading, and we want to find out what is the theme, we are going to read information, read one paragraph, read the other, etc. We get to those information, we analyze, and according to those information, we get a single theme. Doesn't matter who is going to read. Anyone who has some expertise in reading and who get properly the meaning of this information is going to get the same answer, the same specific answer, the same theme. If we are looking for the perspective of mathematics, when we are solving problems, we are solving step by step. Some mathematical problems are 1 step, some are 2 steps, some are 5. Let me adjust a little bit. Let me take one example that is with the 5 steps. I'm going first to solve to apply step 1, step 2, step 3, 4, 5, and after that I'm going to get solution. If we have the same problem, doesn't matter who is going to solve this problem. Anyone who solves this problem is going to reach to the same solution. And this is an example that signifies the convergent thinking. And just one thing I want to remind before I go any further. Convergent thinking and convergent questions, we reached an agreement. I don't know, do you agree or not? We reached an agreement, they are similar. So keep in mind that. But because I'm talking about solving the problems, I have to mention Pllana. Pllana is very important about how to solve the problems. He was a good author of the books. And some of the researchers or mathematicians, they like to modify these 4 steps. They call the 7 steps, 9 steps, etc. But remember, I said I like simplicity, so I'm using just the 4 steps here. And one of the steps is understand the problem. Usually I ask my students, first, when you want to study something, first read the question well, understand the question. If you understand the question, you are done with the 50% of the work. Then, when you understand the problem, you make the plan. This is the second step of the Pllana. When you make a plan, this plan you want to apply. So apply the plan. When you apply a plan, you are going to get a result. But in order to make sure the result is right or wrong, you have to evaluate the result. So those are the 4 steps of the Pllana, how to solve the problems. And this kind of the problems that are connected with the convergent questions or that are connected with the closed-ended questions are going to be learned by teaching convergent teaching. Memorization. Why did I choose this memorization? Memorization is important because how we can find the theme, how we can read better if we don't have a good vocabulary, if we don't understand the words. So in order to have a better vocabulary, we have to memorize words. So memorization is very important. How we can solve the problems if we don't know formula? If we cannot remember those formulas, if he don't learn by memory those formulas. How we can apply those step 1, step 2, step 3 when we cannot memorize by not one by one, which step goes first, which is second. So we need to memorize. And memorization is a very important key in the convergent teaching. And here is one model of Atkinson-Shiffrin. Very interesting model. But I'm going just to explain a little bit those steps. Sensory input. Sensory input means ears and eyes. Through ears and eyes, we take this information. And of course, everything what we hear, it doesn't go in a sensory memory. Some of them we lose. And sensory memory takes something what is more important in sense to the short-term memory. But even for short-term memory, is not all this information that it can handle, it can process it. The short-term memory processes whatever it can and sends to the long-term memory. Long-term memory stores those information for a long time. But remember, sometimes when you don't need something, you forget about this and you want to rebrush it. You say, I'm going to rebrush or refresh because I forgot this information. So you send to the short-term memory, you refresh it, and short-term memory sends to the long-term memory. And according to what I see here, this is my interpretation about the Atkinson-Shiffrin model. Now let me go to the next slide. National average SAT test scores. Because we have a good vocabulary, because we can handle good reading and writing, and through the convergent teaching, we can raise those scores. We can raise those scores in reading and writing. I don't have a lot of experience with reading and writing in SAT, but I do have a good portion of the experience with the math. In the math, I saw lots of tests, and most of them are with a closed-ended question, multiple choice question that we have to choose one right answer. And if we apply the convergent teaching, as I said before, the convergent teaching is very important, teaching that can teach us how to answer the convergent questions, respectively, the questions, the closed-ended questions. So in this way, if we are applying properly convergent teaching, we can raise those scores in SAT math. And in general, those scores can be raised. Patricia?
Yes, thank you, Duli. In convergent teaching, there are a few essential components. As we indicated previously, the lessons should be teacher-centered. And when you look at explicit teaching, that's intentional teaching. When we speak of direct teaching, oftentimes that is a predetermined approach to teaching. And demonstrator method and authority method could be a way to model the lesson. Direct instruction. Direct instruction refers to an instructional approach that is teacher-centered. Lessons are structured and involve the teacher disseminating information to students in an undirectional path. For example, the steps of direct instruction usually include: 1, getting students' attention with an introduction. An example of that would be giving lectures. Number 2, presenting new knowledge and/or skills. An example of that would be flipped learning scenarios. Number 3, giving opportunities for guided practice with feedback. That could be facilitated by video lessons. Let's take a look at number 4, assigning opportunities for applications, perhaps homework. That could also be assigning podcast lessons as well. Number 5, providing additional feedback, reteaching, review. That's modeling and demonstrations. And the last one is assessing projects. That could be simply done by slide presentations.
And explicit teaching. Latter time I applied my teaching in class, and I didn't know what kind of teaching I did. But when I was reading some methods of teaching, then I realized, oh, one of them resonates with my teaching. And this one here, explicit teaching, resonates with my teaching. This explicit teaching has 4 steps. How do I teach in these 4 steps? In explain, first of all, I take the idea. If I have a new lesson, for example, the main idea, the formula, etc., I explain what's going on in that lesson. And then in the step 2, I explain 2 simple examples. The simple examples, the students don't have to pay attention on the complexity of the question, how to do it, but they just pay attention on the steps, which is the first step, second, etc. And then when I get the impression they understand how to do those examples and how to solve those problems, then I ask help from my students. I said, what is the next step? What should I do now? What is the next? And they involved in those examples when I'm solving. Sometimes I make some intentional mistake and they say, oh, here is the mistake. And I get the impression we are doing together, I'm not doing alone. And sometimes I do some mistakes by accident, but they react and I see they are with me. When I have time, I give 1 or 2 examples, at least 1 example, they to do by themselves. So to practice those examples, to master better. And those 4 steps I applied in my teaching. And this kind of the teaching is under umbrella of the convergent teaching, especially when we deal with solving mathematical examples with a single solution. Characteristic of demonstration. Demonstration method is an interesting method. I'm not going to read here everything, but you can read those characteristics if you are interested in. But I'm going here to illustrate with 1 example. While I was a student in urban education program at Rutgers University, a professor of mine, Professor Arthur Powell, he was interested to teach us in one very important term, metacognition. And what he did, he wanted to demonstrate 1 activity. He said, could you solve every one example, mathematical example that is at least 2 steps, but doesn't take more than 2 minutes? And we students, we started to solve the problem, each one. And after 2 minutes, we solved. Somebody maybe a little bit early, somebody late, but it took about 2 minutes. And then he said, now think about how did you solve the problem? What strategy did you use? Why did you use this strategy? And it was unusual for us a little bit to think that way because we didn't used to solve the problems in that way. And we started to think about it. And when it became 1 minute, the professor Arthur asked us, how did you solve it? Some students, they shared their ideas. They shared their thoughts. And in the end, he said, this is a thinking about the thinking is metacognition. And since then, I never have forgotten. So the demonstratory method in education is a very powerful method. So if we can apply, but the problem is we cannot apply in all lessons. But whenever it is possible to apply demonstratory method, I think is a great method for students to retain the information, like it did with me. So let me go to the next slide. Okay, why did I bring this here? Doesn't have, because teacher-centered approach, it has other more methods how to do it, but we selected just a few of them that are associated with convergent teaching. And here I'm looking at this expert. If you look at this expert method, and if you look, for example, in the college, in higher education, lots of adjuncts are experts, but they do not have experience or they are not familiar with the teaching. They do not have experience with art of teaching. And when they teach there, they discuss it with the students, or they want to teach it like they are talking to experts. They talk in that way. They do not take in consideration the prior knowledge of the students. And they do not take in consideration social emotional learning. And this was one reason why the professors of the University of Columbia wanted this kind of the teaching, what we teach from K to 12, to bring into the higher education. This was the reason, because of these adjuncts who are teaching in colleges, who do not have experience with the art of teaching. And that's why I brought this, this important slide. And benefits of the convergent teaching. Convergent teaching has lots of benefits, but we selected just 5. We think those are sufficient to prove the convergent teaching method is important to apply in the teaching. What we did bring here. So the student's benefit is communication skills. I already talked about the memorization to enlarge the vocabulary. When they have a better vocabulary, they can develop a better linguistic intelligence. Then problem-solving skills. I talked about mathematics, how we can apply. Better national average SAT scores. I already talked a little bit earlier. So when we have these 3 components, then students have a great chance to be admitted in good colleges. And when they have a good chance to admit it in good colleges, and on the other hand, if they have a very good background in education, the chances to graduate on time is great. That's why these students could graduate on time. And those 5 benefits are sufficient to prove the benefits of the convergent teaching. And technology. What kind of technology we can use in the convergent teaching? We can use it the same way like in the student-centered approach. For example, in the convergent teaching, we can use technology from low technology to the high technology. One of the examples of the low technology I'm going to take. I'm not going to go any further. In this presentation, when you saw this presentation in the slides, we use a low technology. Everything here what we use a low technology. But if you look at, for example, I forgot exactly which number of the slide, but one of them that was with the dots, in animation of the dots, the GIF, in that one was used high technology. I'm trying here to take one example and to show you how we can use a high technology. Maybe it's not very high, but to a certain degree is a high. If you're allowing me a little bit, just let me go here in my Desmos. I'm using Desmos here. Okay, I'm here. Can you see my screen? Good. Okay, so in this case here, let's say we have a nonlinear equations, and I want to use a high technology. Those nonlinear equation, if I want to solve, for example, I have here the circle, equation of the circle, and I have the equation of quadratic equations. And those have 5 possible solutions. So already I am telling you what is the answer, okay? But I want to prove it. If I am solving this analytically, it's going to take me 1 hour if I find friendly examples. If I do not find friendly examples, sometimes some examples can be very nasty. It's going to consume more time for 2 hours and more. But I'm saying if we can find the very friendly examples, we can solve for about 1 hour. But with technology, I can solve for 5 minutes. But just let me give you some direction here. For example, if we have intersection of the parabola with a circle in one place, means I have one solution. If they intersect in two places, I can prove they have two solutions. But like in this case here, they have no intersection between each other. It means it's no solution. And I'm proving the first case. The first case is the system of nonlinear equation. In this specific equation has no solution. So this case is a no solution. So I'm going now in the second case when it has one solution. For example, if b is greater than 4, it has no solution. If b is a 4, look here, b is a 4. Instead of the b I am substituting by 4, I'm going to have here one intersection. And this intersection signifies one solution. Already I proved two cases. The case 1 I proved when we have no solution. And the case 2 I proved when we have one solution. Those are two cases. So remember, but I'm going again to count with my fingers until 5. Thanks God I can count everything in one hand. So I'm going now down. If, for example, B is going between 4 and -4, I'm going to have two solutions. So let me go down. And as you see, if I'm going down here, still I have two solutions. Probably you see it here. I have two intersections. Can you see it? So, okay, so I'm moving again down. So if you follow it, I have just two intersections, but do not look at those intersections with the X or the Y axis. Look those intersections just between the circle and the parabola. If I'm going to the number -4, so pay attention. If I'm going to -4 here, I'm stopping. Okay, let me go here, number -4. And look how many intersections do I have now? I have 1, 2, 3. It means I have 3 solutions. I already proved I have one solution. Now I have 2. I have in case 2, I have in case 1, I have no solution. In second case, I have one solution, 2 solutions, and this is a 4th case that I have 3 solutions. Now I'm going to the 5th case. If I'm going to less than -4, if a B is less than -4, what's going to happen? I have 4 solutions. You see, here is 1, so I'm going to show you. Here is 1, 1, 2, 3, 4. So I already proved the 5 solutions with the help of the technology for less than 5 minutes. But if I did this one, for example, analytically, as I said, it would take me a lot of time, and it would be very hard to prove it. But with technology, with high technology, we can do very quickly. And I want here this example to look from a different perspective. If I'm looking at this example from a perspective of the computational thinking, what is computational thinking? Let me give one a very simple definition. The computational thinking is a problem-solving method that solves complex problems with the help of technology. So this is a complex problem, and I'm solving with with technology. So this is a computational thinking. So if we are looking at this problem signifies the convergent teaching, but on the other hand, it signifies computational thinking. If I am describing this from the lenses of mathematics, if I am describing this from the Venn diagram, the Venn diagram, in this example would be the intersection of the convergent teaching and computational thinking. And now I'm moving on to my main presentation, and I have one more slide, so I'm not going to hold you for a long time. I promise you, so I'm not making very boring this presentation. I know maybe it's too long. And this is my last slide. And this is the method how I'm teaching in my classroom. Let's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and assessment is a Friday. I will have tomorrow the quizzes for my students. On Monday, let's say I am teaching quadratic, I'm taking one topic. Let's say I'm teaching quadratic equation in vertex form. Okay, I'm taking an arbitrary topic. And on Monday, I'm going to introduce students with the main idea about the quadratic equation in vertex form. I'm going to teach them about the main formula. For example, y is equal with a times x minus h squared plus k. I'm going to introduce them what is a h, what is a k, and to introduce with some mathematical vocabulary. So when I'm talking about this terminology, they know what I'm talking about. And then I'm taking some simple examples. I mentioned before, simple examples. But before the time is very short, I can end up with those simple examples. Then I am going on Tuesday. On Tuesday, I'm going to start with the simple examples. Don't forget, here I ended up with the simple examples. On Tuesday, I started with the simple examples. What does it mean? It means I am taking in consideration the prior knowledge of the students. Then I start to increment the difficulties of the examples, and I go to the medium examples. And in the third day, on Wednesday, I am going here to start with the medium, whatever I ended up here, because I take in consideration the prior knowledge of the students. And I start to increment those to the harder problem, as sometimes or very often time, I can go with the application of these problems or of this concept of mathematics in the real world situation. And on Thursday, again, let me say something because I forgot to say, when I ended up here with a medium question, I started here with a medium. So again, I took in consideration this prior knowledge of the students. I just want to emphasize this because it's very important. And then on a Thursday, I divide students in the group. I divide them in the group and I prepare some sample example for the exams. I take about 10 to 15, and students, they cannot solve all the problem during the class because sometimes there are more, but they choose with whatever example they do not feel comfortable, they practice in those examples. And each group, they share answers with each other. Some students, they work together to the end, some they share answers, they talk to each other how to solve it, and they socialize with each other. In this case, they are applying social emotional learning. And on Friday is a quiz. When it's a quiz, I create a quiz in Schoology. And the quiz is multiple choice quiz. But I ask them to write on the papers to show me the work. And if they make some mistake in the quiz, but in the work, they show the good work, but I saw they made a mistake in one minus or plus, etc., and they got the wrong answer, I increase the grade. Because when they go in the weekend, I want them to go good in the weekend, to have a good weekend, not to be upset. Because student who study hard and get bad grade, he gets very upset. I know that. And for those students who just give me just the question and answer, I'm asking them, no, this is not good. You have to show me the work because something is wrong here. You don't understand the problem. How did you get to the right answer? And then they know. Next time they try to show me the work. But the main idea to show me the work here is I want them to learn by doing. And if you pay attention in this learning here, I applied those elements. The first element what I applied here was prior knowledge of the student. I applied the content of the knowledge and social emotional learning. So those three elements satisfies the criteria. How is the definition of the convergent teaching from the professors of the University in Columbia? And if you pay attention here, as I said, my teaching, explicit teaching, what I'm using, and the method, what I'm using here to answer those convergent questions, I applied here convergent teaching. In both cases, I applied. So the convergent teaching behaves like a chameleon. The position of observers determines the definition of the convergent teaching. Even though there are differences about this definition, convergent teaching exists and it's a true, unique identity. And I think here is a good place to stop. I will go with a question if you have any question. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you.
Does convergent teaching relate to educators working harder to provide simpler instructions to help students understand better?
Yes, but it's not a process of working harder. It's finding a solution, as Duli indicated before. We want to find solutions, and those solutions is that, simply put, you have to tap into a student's learning style. Not all of us learn the same. Once you tap into that and you present modeling in real time, in real life, that seems to lessen the gap in the learning process. That's what I've discovered.
Right. Everyone is so different. Yes. Mhm. Okay. I have Atiba. You're raising your hand, so I'm going to unmute you. Okay, Atiba, you have a question?
Yeah, I do. Good evening, you guys.
Good evening.
My question is, by the way, good job, you guys. I was just wanting to know, what's the difference between convergent teaching and like differentiation of instruction? Like, I don't see what the difference is.
Just one thing. Differentiated instruction, convergent teaching can apply everywhere. Whatever questions are convergent questions. Do you remember the convergent questions requires, for example, one single answer. And those convergent questions can be from simple to hard questions. Doesn't matter are simple or hard. And the good students, the advanced students, they always want to deal with the hard questions. Am I correct? Struggling students is good to deal first with the simple examples, because when they master the simple problems, they can go further, they can progress to the medium, and they can go to the harder. So the differentiation instruction, you can do it, but they do not deal with the open-ended questions. And open-ended questions are those questions that have more than one answer. Does it make sense? And for example, sometimes student-centered teaching deals with this kind of the question, open-ended. To be honest with you, when I read the first time, I was trying to criticize this method, because I feel sometimes I have some element of divergent thinking. And I learned these open-ended questions. And I was trying to criticize, but I saw convergent teaching has a good size. And I saw I am applying this convergent teaching method. And it's a very successful for the students to get a good grades in college and to be successful. Why to not apply it? But if they can, for example, answer in open-ended questions, the convergent teaching doesn't deal with it, because open-ended questions lead to the creativity. And creativity is the first phase of the innovation. But with those kind of the question deals more those divergent thinker or centered students approach. They deal more with this kind of the question. And to be honest with you, sometimes even including myself, when we are evaluating those divergent thinkers as a students, we make mistakes because we don't have enough knowledge how to evaluate them. One of the problem, for example, was Poincaré, French mathematician, but the French knew, because they had another great mathematician who had the problem to pass the test. Those divergent thinkers, they have a problem how to pass the test. For them, the test is very hard. Doesn't matter how easy it is, because they don't think convergently. They don't think for a specific answer, but they think for divergent answers. And this is what you're saying. Probably you messed up this question about the divergent thinking or open-ended questions. But the convergent teaching for differentiation, you can apply it. It's not a problem. But if you can apply it in those questions that are convergent questions, not open-ended questions. And I think this kind of the teaching, I don't have a lot of experience because I haven't seen over. I have to work more and to understand better. But this is the answers what I have for right now.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for question, Atiba.
Yes.
And thank you for your support.
Yes.
Does anybody else have any questions? Okay, it looks like we've covered all of our questions. Duli, Patricia, is there anything else that you wanted to cover before I wrap up?
No, I think we've covered most of the areas that we wanted to highlight.
No, I don't have nothing. I just thank you for giving us an opportunity to present this presentation. And I want to thank all participants who participated in this webinar.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, great. Thank you, Duli and Patricia. Thank you so much for this presentation. And again, thank you everyone for coming to our webinar series tonight. The NJCU EdTech department really appreciates all of you being here. So please be sure to check out what else is going on in the EdTech department, for we always have so many events taking place. You can follow us on Twitter, LinkedIn, and Facebook at Educational Technology Department at NJCU. Thank you again for joining us today, and everyone, we will see you next time.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.